Welcome to another lecture of Homeschool MBA. Uh, Thank you all for being here. Let's get started. In our previous lectures, we gave an overview of what is an MBA, who needs an MBA, and we talked about some of the typical courses that are MBA. Today's lecture is all about an overview of organizational and people management. All right, let's get started. So hello, Professor. The slide I have up is an overview of a typical class that is taught in an MBA regarding organizational and people management. We've tried to summarize, key takeaways in one slide. Let's get started. How are you doing? And let's talk about organizational and people management.
Thank you very much for asking this. Right at the outset, let me tell you that organizations are like people. They are born, they start growing, expanding, vertical and horizontal, then they start cruising, and then there is a decline. So they go through a life development cycle, just like the human beings, they go through the life development cycle. There are two different angles to look at organizational and people management. The organizations can be divided into two different parts, the hardware part of the organization and the software part of the organization. Hardware part of the organization is basically developing the infrastructure, the computers, the hardware, the plant and machinery, the buildings, the air conditioners, and things like that. Developing this side is not a big challenge. If you have the money, you can do it easily. But the other side, which is called as the software side of the organization, that is very difficult to develop. That is also known as brainware of the organization or the human intellectual capital side of the organization. Like Bill Gates says, my assets and my assets walk out of my company every evening. In fact, he says my asset and inventory walks out of my company every evening. What it means is that the people are his asset. So developing people, developing their capacities, developing their skills, building their career paths, and motivating them and educating them, that's a long process. And the organizations have a proper system of development. You see, they link their academic training, etc., with promotions and with benefits and things like that. So it's a long process, but the most important process, because ultimately it ends into human intellectual capital. The Mercedes, they show this side of the organization as 5 billion euros. That is the asset of the people's intellectual capital is 5 billion euros per annum. So that's it. That is one way of looking at the organization and the people management. The other side is looking at the social culture and organizational politics side of the organization. Now, this is again a very important factor. In this factor, you basically create a corporate culture in which you have individual behavior, you have group behavior, and then you have organizational functioning. Now, when we say that it's individual behavior, basically we are linking the motivational level of the workers with achievement. And when we say group behavior, we mean the teamwork in the organization which leads us to success. And if we achieve that, then basically we are achieving the organizational objectives and goals. Now, to do that, you have to develop the internal processes. And internal processes They include SOPs, procedures, and also structure. Structure means that who reports to whom, and then again the values, the ethics of the company, where people do things voluntarily out of their own conviction or as part of the culture, not for the sake of money or promotions, etc. Similarly, you develop processes and systems to control their functions so that they remain within the limits the company wants them to perform. Now, here, the other thing that is considered very important is the external environment. The external environment is basically the ecosystem of the company in which the company performs. That where do they get the raw materials, where do get the input, and for that they develop a strategy. And strategy is a long-term planning, basically. The companies they adopt, the companies they adopt, and this is the responsibility of the chief executive. The good chief executives, they strategize, they visualize, and they idealize the objectives and goals of the company. And then they set up the aims and objectives of the company. And aim of the company is converted into vision of the company, and vision of the company into objectives, and objectives into goals, and goals are converted into roles, and roles are performed by the employees, and they are monitored, and they are then categorized and then rewarded or punished. That's the process through which the individuals go. To do that, you need to provide resources, financial resources, knowledge, skill, and other core competencies so that the employees, they are fully equipped with all these resources to perform and achieve their objectives and goals. So that basically brings us to a kind of framework for the social side of the organization, and it is very it should always be very systematic approach to lead the company. Now, that is there is a third angle also. When we talk of the people, then we are basically talking of the competencies of the people and managing that competency, managing their knowledge, managing their skills, so that right person for the right job is selected. And what do we mean by right person and right job? Means that the employees must be given the task according to their experience and according to their qualifications. Not only that, the decision of giving or allocating the task should be discussed with the employees, whether they accept this role or not, whether they can perform this task or not. Once they say yes, so that means that they have become part of the decision now. And it is the ownership of the decision is now taken by the employees. And when the ownership of decision is taken by the employees, then they perform better. So that's what we basically mean organization and people management. Managing the organizational politics of the company, managing the social culture of the company, managing the knowledge culture of the company, and managing the behavior of the employees only to achieve the objectives of the company. That is, generally speaking, the organizational and people management techniques and strategies.
Okay. The other one question I had was, as a new employee, when you come into a company, normally how hard is it for a new person to understand the company culture? And then similarly, how should, the organization make sure that the new guy is welcome and they can understand and get along in the
Yes. Yes, there are, there are responsibilities of the employee, and then there are responsibilities of the company. The company's responsibilities provide enough material for the employees to understand the culture of the company and to understand the working of the company, like manuals, like reports, articles, and comments of the customers, and things like that, where aims, objectives, and performance of the company is discussed, brochures and things like that, so that there is enough material for the new employee to read and understand the past, present, and the future of the company. That's the responsibility of the company. And another responsibility of the company is to set up the training system within the company, so that the new employees are put to various types of training and tenure systems, and they are always prepared to take up the higher responsibilities and all that. The responsibility of the employees is, of course, to go and read this material, meet the people, observe the culture of the company, see that how people attend their office, they're coming to the office and going out of the office, and within the office, how they communicate with each other, and they should learn. So first of all, if they learn the SOPs, the procedures of the company, and they understand the social culture of the company and the knowledge assets of the company, then they should start working towards what job has been given to them. And whenever the jobs are given, they are followed with job descriptions. So if the employees, they follow the job descriptions, invariably they perform much better, and they become part of the mainstream of the company. Yes.
Okay. I think one other question when I look back at my career is, I mean, to you, how long does it take for companies to, change their culture? Like if a company is very, like you said, monotonous, and or a new CEO comes in, normally how long does it take for companies to really, redefine
You
it?
see, I understand.
Yeah.
Company's culture is not only the social culture of the company.
Mhm,
The company's culture is also technical culture of the company. Now,
mhm,
like for instance, there is a company which is working on manual systems.
mhm,
No, they have to move to computer systems.
mhm,
And when they move computer systems to online real-time systems,
mhm,
so that's the technical culture of the company. And then there is the social culture of the company. That is, as I discussed earlier, communication between employees and all that. And then there is financial culture of the company, that how willing are they to spend their resources on trainings and on benefits to the employees and all that. So that's another side of the culture of the company. So when the employees, you see, changing this culture involves basically change management.
mhm,
Change management, you see, the technology is moving so fast that it has become difficult for the companies to keep in step with the change in
mhm,
technology, change in approach. So the company, the senior management, the executive management, they have to be proactive rather than reactive. And if you ask me that how long does it take? Well, it's a continuous process. You can never say that a company has come to the final stage of changing the culture. No, because the culture also goes through various stages and all that. But however, 3 to 5 years time is enough for a company to move from one paradigm to another.
okay. Another thing, I guess, a couple of questions in my mind, like,
Yes.
based on your experience, how hard is it to work for a bad boss, and how rewarding is it to work for a good boss?
Basically, it's wrong to say bad boss or a good boss.
Mm-hmm,
The bosses are bosses.
mm-hmm,
Taking unpopular decisions makes the boss look bad or good, in the eyes of the employees. The bosses invariably, the successful managers are the bosses. They are not afraid of taking unpopular decisions and tough decisions, hard decisions. And sometimes they are outspoken when they talk of the implies weaknesses and their negative side of the personality. The implies, they start getting offended and all that. So keep one thing in mind, that bosses are never bad. They are tough. They are, let us say, work oriented and things like that. On the other hand, the bosses, it's a kind of advice to the bosses to be pro people. They must understand the weaknesses and the strengths of their employees and use those weaknesses and strengths of employees towards achievement of the company goals, and allocate the work to them according to their willingness and according to their qualifications. Now, the employees, they must tolerate, because there'll be a time he or she will become boss as well. So they must learn. They must learn to face the difficult situations. However, there is something called organizational politics. That's a separate project, topic altogether. We can discuss sometime later. And in that organizational politics, some bosses who, who are pessimistic, they feel threatened by the competent employees, and they want to, keep their profile very low. That the bosses should never do, because the boss grows only if the employees grow. If the employees don't grow, the boss would be stagnant. So the bosses also should keep that in mind. And the employees, for the sake of learning, they should be very proactive, respectful to the boss. And if they disagree with the boss, they should not keep shut. They should stand up and say no to the boss, because no leads to new knowledge. Yes does not. So that's how the behavior between boss and the employees should be, viewed and followed.
All right. Thank you. This was very interesting. I'd like to thank everybody for watching. Please like and subscribe to all our social media. Professor, we'll meet again on another lecture. Thank you.
Thank you very much.